podcast 2. Today, my guest is the incredible one and only Robert Kingett. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. not
Woohoo!
not many people do. So,
Well, it's either like Kingett or Kinjet or something like that. It's like, oh God, I hope I don't get this screwed up on the air live. But I mean, look at my name. My name is Joshua Pantellaresco. I mean, I used to screwing up my name all the time, right? So,
all
and
right, yay,
yeah,
awesome. I well, you shouldn't feel bad because I actually said my own name wrong a few times in a job interview or something, so it's all
yeah,
good.
yeah. My name is Robert. Shit. Robert K.
Yeah,
K. That's right. K. What's the K
yeah,
stand for? Just
yeah,
K. Right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. Right. I just bring this up because honestly, like it's always it's my worst. It's the worst part about what I do is because I don't. I talk to you. Obviously, I talk to you off the air a little bit, right?
Hmm.
But what I how do I put this? Uh, it's one of those things where I look at it and go, all right, I think I'm going to get this all nailed down. I think I'm absolutely going to do this. And then sometimes I go out there and I make a complete arse of myself.
Oh
I
yeah.
skip.
I it's very interesting that you're using UK slang, and even though I think you have an American accent,
Little bit of both. I'm Canadian, but my dad's American.
cool beans. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
No, it's one of those things where I got a little bit of everything in me, and I'm in Windsor, Ontario. So I if you want to put this in like a perspective, I'm like Detroit's like bottom butt cheek. I don't know if it's left or right. It's just like we're literally the ass end of Detroit.
talk, talk about being the bottom of the barrel.
Something like that, right? Right? Everything comes out here, right? It's so I bring all this up just basically to say that basically when you're doing stuff like this, right? You're doing it because you learn how to speak basically wherever you're at. Like whereabouts are you, man?
I'm in Illinois.
In
Um,
Illinois. Okay, whereabouts in Illinois are you?
Chicago
So you're in Chicago, right? So
specifically.
Chicago's got its own like little slang, its own like um, way of doing things, and it's cool, right? It's super cool,
Yep.
but at the same token, like there are things you can say that I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's like I never heard this before,
Right.
right? And
Right.
that's not a that's not a knock. It's just like we all like how do I we all have this tendency to when we do this stuff we all have our own little way of saying things, doing things, and making it kind of roll. And
And I also think like we're all kind of comfortable with just kind of where we're currently geographically at. Like we don't really need to venture out, so why should we do so culturally or things like that? N-
I'll,
Not
I'll do.
saying that's everybody, of course.
I get to do this podcast. I get to talk to people of all different sorts all the time. I love different. I like for me. I like seeing the world in as many different ways as possible because it's the only way
Mm.
you can understand it, at least a little bit, right? So,
Mhm.
um, my opinions are my opinions. Other people's opinions are other people's opinions, and we're never going to agree on absolutely everything. And then that's actually awesome. I actually like that. What's important then is do I understand where you're coming from? The only way I can do that is to show up, shoot the shit, listen to some of the same music, eat some of the same food, hit on maybe the same women, kind of, sort of, maybe not quite the same woman, but the same kind of woman. I don't know,
Mhm.
and find that connection, right? And that's a very that's how you do it. I love, like, whenever I go to a new city, I love finding all the stuff I'm not supposed to go to, just because it's like I'll understand more about this place, like, doing those things. That's just me though. I'm kind of openly crazy.
Right, right. But at least you admit it. So lots of people try to hide it.
Why it's not, it's the most interesting thing about people is their passions.
Hmm.
Like, honestly, it's the most interesting thing. I want to know what you're batshit crazy about, because honestly, that's going to make you you,
Hmm.
right? That's I don't want what you to be like everybody else. That's boring as fuck. Who cares,
Definitely. Right. Yeah,
right? Right.
definitely. Humans are just massive layers of layers upon layers that just never seem to have an ending to them. And so why, like I totally agree. Why should we stop at just examining one layer of a person?
Exactly. Like in terms of we all got things, like, we all have interesting little contradictions. We all have weaknesses. We all have flaws. But those things are what make us us. They help. I always I've used this example in other shows. So you look at it like salt. Look at sea salt. Okay, got all these little, like, you look at it from a microscope. It's got all these little tiny flaws. It doesn't. It like they don't look perfect. It doesn't look clean and pristine. They all have their different things. Ironically, though, it's because of all those flaws they have actually absorbed into the body better than, say, iodized salt, which got like which looks like, perfect. It's the fact that it has these unique little layers to it that allows it to be as good as it is, right? Whereas, and people are the same way. Like, it's our little things, it's our flaws, it's our joys, it's our wonders that make it what it is.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. You've hit it the nail on the head.
Sometimes, sometimes I'm smart, but don't tell anybody. I mean, absolutely not.
That's what I say a lot too. There are times when I'm really clever, and then most of the time I'm not clever. So,
No, it's not. It's not. It's not that. It's just you don't want those expectations from everybody else. Oh my God, you're smart.
right.
Uh
Right.
oh. Oh
Uh-oh.
my God, you're capable. Oh shit.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, you don't want that. Come on, man. Like, you want. I just want to jam and create stuff all day, and
Right.
I get the feeling you're the same way.
Yes, exactly. I am. Oh, shush. Um, yes, exactly. Am a writer, so I just want to make up stories, and sometimes as a means of escapism, sometimes as a mean to educate someone. For example, about the disability experience and just a whole lot of things. So yes, which has quite honestly why I've dialed back my social media usage tremendously, and now I'm actually creating more and more stories and things, and having less opinions on Twitter and things like that. So
Yeah, it's kind of hard right now because we're all going through this. We're going through a very interesting paradigm shift around the world right now, and
yeah, I would actually go as far to say an existential crisis.
No, no, absolutely, no, no. But it big time. Like I'm not even gonna like argue with you. It's huge. Um, I my own opinion is we're going to have a very ugly few years. I,
Yeah, that's my thought too. I mean, the first, say, month or so of the pandemic, I thought, okay, well, this will get under control eventually. And now my views of the pandemic have shifted dramatically, and I think that we're going to be writing this out for years, possibly decades to come. So,
I
yeah, yeah.
I
So,
don't think it's going to be decades. I think it's going to. Here's my big concern about what's
mhm,
happening. Okay,
mhm,
there's a push to do something that I don't think we're ready. We honestly know what we're doing,
mhm,
and it's not even. I'm not saying don't. I want to misunderstand. I'm not saying COVID isn't something to worry about. That's not what I'm saying. What I
mhm,
am saying is I'm is almost like how to put this. It's like everything is a nail, and we're applying the same hammer,
hmm.
and it hasn't worked, and it won't work.
So
And,
you think that we're trying to hit each and every individual nail as it pops up, rather than just sweeping all the nails off the table.
well, I think it's more like okay, strictly speaking, right now, okay, regardless of where you're at, whether you're pro or anti-vaccine, there's not really a clear evidence right now that doing what we're about whatever they're trying to get everybody to do right now is going to work.
Hmm.
Especially if you're looking at Israel and the UK right now,
Hmm.
right? Doesn't look like that's the way to do it. But
Mm.
we're pushing into this anyway.
Right.
So this is what I see happening. I see a lot of nurses, firefighters, police officers, specialized skill jobs like this walking away.
Hmm.
And when that
But they're
happens, it's like short term because it's not just here. It's going to be worldwide, not just here.
right.
There's going to be it's going to be a hemorrhaging that I don't think people realize how bad that's going to be. I think it's
Right.
going to be very, very nasty short term. And then there's other problems that I can see. I'm not convinced this is the way to do this. I think I think there are more moderate approaches that I think everybody would be happier with.
Hmm.
But that's not what we're doing. We are going. Everybody's doing this, and I'm
Mm.
like, I'm not so sure that's a good idea. And I'm not the only one with doubts. Lots of people have doubts about this.
Hmm.
So I'm. It's like okay, virus comes, we lock everybody down. Go out, virus still out there, we lock everybody down again. Go
Hmm.
out, virus still there, we lock everybody down again. We have
Ah,
vaccine, virus is still here. Okay, everybody gets locked in again.
right.
You can't keep doing this forever. We've come. I think we've come to a point where like we before we really make a decision on which way we go forward, we really should pause and reflect about what we're about to do because this could be very, very brutal. And that's kind of like my fear. I could be wrong. I really want to be wrong.
Hmm.
Right. I really, really do.
Right. Like,
Right. But
but
I can't blame anybody that walks away from the job for this. It's already started. So
yes, it's even happening here in America, where lots of nurses are just
mhm,
throwing up their hands and saying it's just too much. Like, I
mhm,
can't
yeah.
deal with it anymore.
and actually your school bus drivers all just quit in Chicago.
Right. Yes.
Right? So I
Right.
mean, this
Yeah.
like what I'm talking about, it's already happening, right?
Right.
So
Right.
right,
Right.
and I don't think people realize the long term of this. You can't replace people that quickly,
Hmm.
especially when you talk to nurses, firefighters especially. They're
Yes.
paramedics
Mhm.
too. You can't replace that quickly. Good
Right.
luck, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And like I think this will have a real devastating effect on medical education as well. So like lots of younger doctors will look at this and look at the battlefield essentially they're getting themselves into and saying, well, do I really want to do this anymore? I
Of
mean,
course.
if this is going to be the rest of my life, hypothetically speaking, then
Hmm.
is it really worth going through medical school and things
Well,
like
yeah,
that? And
and
yeah.
or any, what's the value of a job
Hmm.
if you're
Yep.
again, because you don't know what you're like, you're taking a big risk. Like
Right.
personally, you're taking a big risk, and then
Right.
on top of that, you don't know where this is going. Like this seems like again to me, hammer and nail. This is the wrong way to do this,
Right.
right? You
But
could be
that
more.
like But that kind of being said, though, like, so every virus mutates. So if
Sure.
you get ahead of the mutation, there's nothing for the virus to do. So we have to get ahead of a
Do
mutation.
we? Let's just have a friendly, like, we can agree to disagree on this, but this is just like, let's just have a friendly conversation about this
Hmm.
for a second, okay?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I would love to. Yeah.
So let's talk about this a couple different ways. Let's Okay, you're under the assumption that the vaccine is going to work exactly as it's supposed to. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm under the assumption that I feel like I'm under a different assumption. I'm under the assumption that as of right now, we don't know enough to make a solid commitment to what the real risk factors are. That's my perspective.
Okay.
All right, that's my perspective. Watching what I'm seeing in England and the UK right now, the UK and Israel right now, there are some questions I feel that need, especially in Israel, that need to be answered.
Hmm.
Um, but so I'm not sure, and I'm saying that in like the most intelligent way possible. Like I do not know what's going on, and I'm not sure anybody does. So that right there, under normal circumstances, would warrant a pause. Like, okay, what are we doing? Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, like that just would
Right.
warrant a pause, not necessarily a stop, but like, okay, let's really see what we're doing here. So, but let's assume everybody goes in. Okay, how many shots are we going to take?
Hmm.
3, 4, 5, 6,
Well,
10. Again, I'm just. This is just. We're going under
but
this.
like we're going to have to accept the reality where it's just another vaccine that we have to get each and every year until the day that we
Assuming
die.
it works. Assuming it works. Right.
Right.
Assuming it
Right.
works.
Right.
At this moment in time, that's an open debate.
Hmm.
Right. If this, and
But
also, like, let's compare it.
right.
Even a flu shot. Okay, if we want to compare it to a flu shot's once a year.
Right.
This has already been 3 times in 1 year.
Right. Yeah.
So like there's some questions here, right, that need to really be answered before we jump, because once we jump, like where will that lead a year from now or 2 years from now in terms of risk, other risks that we haven't, again, this is new too. We
Right.
don't have, like, if you want like a flu shot comparison, okay,
Right.
Before the flu shot came out, it was tested for 4 years in the
Hmm.
public, smaller scale, before it was ever released in mass.
Right.
We don't have that benefit with this at all. This just came out, and we're literally just throwing it out there. We did it because it was an emergency,
Right.
but like, you see where I'm coming from on this?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So if we're going to jump, like, I think people want to make sure it works. Otherwise, what else are we signing up for? That's where a lot of people are at with this. On the flip side, I'm not trying to dismiss that COVID is a risk. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that to be mentioned. But I also think doing maybe something like what Japan does, which is like, what they'll do is, instead of having everybody have the same shot, everybody sees their doctor and they go with different treatments according to the person's needs, which is a very different way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You might need the shot, but maybe I don't.
Actually
Maybe
got. I actually got double
double vax.
vaccinated. So
Yes.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Even though my doctor's like, I don't think you should. I'm like, well, I mean, I, I think so. Every vaccine, I think, has. I thought that each and every vaccine had something different to offer. So, like, I thought, okay, well, now I got the Pfizer vaccine, so let me get the Moderna to beef up maybe some small part of my immune system that the Pfizer vaccine didn't necessarily.
So you went with a mixed approach. Okay.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. I understand. I just like I said, that's kind of the issue, right? We're like, this is a big paradigm, because this is all like legally.
Hmm.
Okay. Legally, the state is dictating a specific medication for your body.
Hmm.
That's huge. Like, that's huge. That's not a small thing at all.
Hmm.
And if you can't have it, you're losing your job. You're losing, like that. That has never been done before in this
Hmm.
part of the world, anyway.
So it's I mean, I feel like the vaccines do work. Now,
Okay.
if if you want to frame it like a binary yes or no, then obviously that's where a lot of the criticisms are going to come. You can still catch COVID and you could still be vaccinated. However, like, the chances of the severity of COVID are significantly lower. I feel if you get the vaccine. So if you had not taken the vaccine, then your COVID case would be more devastating than, and you would have a lesser chance of survival. So I think in order to build up the antibodies, I feel like we just need to get the vaccine and help our immune system recognize the virus. So,
So
yeah.
I'll just ask one question, and then we'll
Hmm.
move on.
Okay.
So there have been reports that natural people that had caught the first COVID are actually more immune than people with the vaccine.
Hmm.
So what do you feel about that?
I feel like that's entirely true, entirely possible.
Okay.
So.
So then this is the last point, and then we can quietly agree to disagree. I'm cool with that too.
Hmm.
This is my take. Um, I think at this point, it's a risk both ways. I think we both can agree
Right.
with that. Right? It's a risk both ways.
Right.
Um, I would tend my tendency, though, again, this is just me with. So my background is my dad's a naturopath, and I've seen what happens when medicines go wrong because he would
Mm-hmm.
fix a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, and this is just mine, is it's. I'm not sure this is the right vaccine, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that a vaccine won't be necessary. I'm not sure this one's the correct one. All right,
Mm-hmm.
that's my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Right.
But I also, again, I'm not going to say don't take it because you got to do what you feel is right. And I respect that. I just get very leery when you force everybody or trying to coerce everybody to take it. That's when it gets a little dicey to me. And that's just that's my 2 cents basically on it.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to agree to
Disagree.
disagree.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'll
and
still have a beer with you. I mean, I'm cool with
yeah,
that.
sure,
Yeah,
definitely.
totally.
Yeah. Like I feel like a lot of people nowadays are just like when no, you have to concede to
Oh
my.
God, no. Yeah, no, Rob. In spite of everything I believe, here's the thing: you gotta do what's right for you.
Mhm.
I am not your judge, jury, and executioner. It's like, how dare you? No, I don't. Dude, you gotta do what's right. You gotta do what you feel is right.
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 Yep.
That's it. Right. At the end of the day, it really like in a perfect world, this shouldn't matter. Right.
Mhm.
It really shouldn't. It's just like, dude, you good?
Yeah.
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 Thumbs up, right?
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. And if it just so happens that look, we're not going to agree on everything. We probably don't even agree on the same flavor of ice cream. That's
Right.
okay.
Yeah, mint chocolate
That's
chip
good
is.
ice cream flavor. I like that one. Although I am a sucker for. I like mint, but
Mhm.
I'm still a sucker for vanilla at heart. I'm very straightforward because with vanilla you can just do a lot more things with vanilla. Like
That's really interesting. Like, I've literally never had anybody like love vanilla. Like, it's always been some sort of flavor. So, yeah.
But so there you go. We all stand out. I like vanilla again because what you can mix it with. Like you can put like mint,
Mm-hmm.
fruits,
Yep.
chocolate syrup. You can do all kinds of things with vanilla. Now mint you can do some cool stuff with too. But mint has this effect of making everything with it stronger.
Yes.
I'm not.
Yes.
Oh, so with mint, the thing is, it's like let's be careful about how much stronger we make it. That makes sense,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right. Right. Whereas vanilla, you're not worried about that, right?
Right.
Whereas mint, you're like,
I guess like because I'm totally blind, I love it when my taste buds have a lot of senses to caress.
oh yeah, mint will do that. So,
Yep.
here's a really cool thing I've done with mint. You like, are you a hot sauce guy?
Yes.
Put it with mint.
Really?
Yeah. No. Okay. You only need a little mint, just a little bit of mint.
Right.
Because this is what'll happen, right? This is what'll happen. It'll make anything you take with it like 5 times stronger. So take a little hot sauce, take a little mint, boom. Take coffee, put a little mint in your coffee. Same thing. Like you'll wake up like
yes.
Like, you'll be like, I'm talking so fast, I can't believe I had this with just a little bit of coffee. What did I do? Right? And you're like, right? Mint's cool shit. Mint is very cool shit. But like I said, because of its what it does to everything you put it with, right? Because of what it does with everything you put it with, you have to be very careful with what you mix. Does that make sense? Because you might not want to have that much oomph in it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Oh my goodness. That is I will definitely try that.
What's your favorite hot sauce? I never thought I'd
Oh
ask this
my.
question. What's your favorite one?
Oh, my favorite. My favorite hot sauce has got to be um uh shoot, I just had it and now it's gone.
Oh man,
It's really really hot.
is it like fire alarm? It's gonna set the world on fire. You are on
Yes.
fire.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
okay.
So.
So one or two drops of mint, my brother. No more. Just no
Mhm.
more.
Okay.
But just, you'll be like, you'll smell it. You'll be like, what the hell did I just do? And you try it. You'll be like, my God. You'll come back to
Um,
me the next. I'll see an email from you someday. You'll be like, Josh, I love you and I hate you at the same time. This was amazing, but now never, never. My butt hairs, they're burned completely off. What the hell did you make me do?
Oh my God. So, oh my God.
I,
That's
I
a are these these are great tips. Do you give out these kind of tips all the time on your
well,
podcast?
yeah, just it depends, man. Like like when we met, I had no idea what we would talk about
Hmm.
because it's just like I don't know you. You know what I mean? And just like I know
Right.
you're Rob. I know Karina likes you. She says, "Yeah, come have him come on the show." It's like totally cool,
Hmm.
right? And we talked. Right, we've had like this big important like philosophical paradigm shift debate, and now we've
Hmm.
gone to like ice cream
You're
because
right.
right
Yeah.
and that's me. I mean, I think
Right.
about big stuff, but I also like
Yeah.
have fun because God, I mean, life's short, man.
That's the beauty of humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like I having the capacity to shift from extremely philosophical things to what flavor of ice cream you like. That's amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
and we did that in like
So.
30 minutes, man. So I mean, yeah, like again, like I think okay. Here's the important thing, right? It's not the big shit. Like you probably know this especially. To, there are things you wish you could do.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But you also realize too, because of what you don't have, there's not much in this life that really matters. What really matters,
Right.
right? It's the little things that make life worthwhile, not the big shit.
Right.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you'd have loved the opportunity maybe to try to drive a Ferrari. That'd be kind of cool,
That would
right?
be kind of
Right,
cool.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be awesome, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, me and you had telling terrible jokes about ice cream and hot sauce. That's a memorable moment, and how that makes you feel, right?
Right.
That's what you're going to remember. You're not going
Right.
to care. You're not going to care what we disagree about. You're going to care what I make you feel like, right?
Exactly. Hmm. Right.
I'm
Exactly.
treating you like a human being, and you're like, I dig this dude. He's crazy, but I dig this dude,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah, because I think that you and I share a lot of the same zest for crazy things. So
Oh,
yeah.
totally. I'm no, dude. I'm gonna be nuts until the day I die. That's. I had my own little brush of mortality, and when you have those like brushes of how fragile life can be, and you
Hmm.
realize how fragile life is, one of
Mm.
two things happens. You either become very much a shell, kind of seeking the comfort of, for I guess the psychological term would be the comfort of the womb, the comfort of safety,
Right.
are you going to recognize that life, no matter how well intentioned, it will never be safe,
Hmm. Right.
right?
Right.
And you're gonna have to go for it, right? You're gonna have to do whatever it is you're supposed to do because this is it. Like it doesn't really matter what else is going on in the world or how unfair it is. This is your time, buddy. Make the most of it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Although, like, I do have to say, I'm really tired of living through historical events. It's so
Oh,
draining and so
oh
exhausting.
I think, look, dude, seriously, like Chicago, you introduce me to some great deep dish pizza. We'll play.
Mm.
And here's what we'll do: we'll get like some olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put that on the pizza. We'll have add a little flavor and stuff to it. And anyone watching or listening to just like, dude, how'd you go from pissing me off to making me hungry in the same episode?
Right.
Goddamn, right, right, and pouring pouring, and then it's like, hey, you want to try mint hot sauce on this pizza? And you'll be like, you're fucking nuts. Why not? Let's just do it. Why not? What could go wrong?
Right.
And later on, we'll say we'll never do it again. We'll try something else equally stupid
Right.
because,
Yep.
right? Why not?
Because
Right.
why not?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I to be fair though to the people who do want to create their own personal womb, I just want to say like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
We all need. We all.
Right.
No. You're right. We all
Mhm.
need our spaces. We all need those spaces, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, we can't stay in those spaces. There comes a point you just have. Look, so are you a Peanuts fan? Like remember Charlie Brown, Snoopy?
Hmm. Yes. Yes.
My favorite character in that whole series, actually, my favorite dynamic in that whole series was Linus Van Pelt and
Hmm.
Snoopy. I
Hmm.
love those two together.
Me
My,
too, actually.
yeah, I love, I love,
Me.
I love those two. So Linus is one of the like a smart, capable,
Hmm.
brilliant dude. Like he's smarter than his sister and
Yes.
Charlie Brown both. He's smarter than both of them.
Yes.
But his
Yes.
crutch is that blanket. He
Hmm.
always takes that blanket with him everywhere.
Right.
What I loved about Snoopy is Snoopy would steal the damn thing away from him and get him out, make him uncomfortable.
Right.
Right? As a friend, he was doing him a huge favor.
Yep.
Right? Now, sometimes you just would just wrestle with Linus all the time because again, the blanket's just such an obvious target. But the fact that he would come and take it, right?
Right.
There's a time for safety for sure, but you can't stay there forever. You just can't. There comes a point you gotta go like, okay, life goes on, and so do we.
Mm.
That's just it, right? Um,
Right.
we all.
I have a slightly different view. Like 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 even though it's not really for me personally, I if you want to stay safe your whole life and things, I totally 100% like you do you because I think
No, I get that.
because I think that you know your own experience better than me, right? So, like, I would never know the amount of trauma that you had to go through. So, right, yeah. So,
No, I'm okay. I'm gonna ask. Okay, we just again we can still end up agreeing to disagree, but this is just a fun question I think to ask.
mm-hmm.
I think I'd regret it
Hmm.
because this is something I just realized. Like,
I mean, like I said, it's not for me. Like I know without a shadow of a doubt that I would regret not doing
mhm.
more.
Well, I just so because again I get what you're saying. Like we all like there comes a point for all of us. There's so much pain. There's just a point we can't bear it anymore, and we need time to forget what we've
Hmm.
experienced a little bit. Like forgetfulness is a big part of healing.
Right.
Um, sometimes people go curse human beings for forgetting things too quickly, but the truth is that's part of how we heal.
Hmm.
I like the most devastating moments in my life. I mean, some of them they stick with you,
Hmm.
but I don't feel the same thing I felt then at
Right.
all. You
Right.
know, there's no way I could.
Right. Of course.
Right? I Now, that doesn't mean I've forgotten, but it means like, but I could not. I remember like when I was starving in Arizona, I remember a little bit of what that felt like.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember what it feels like to be that hungry, like internally, externally, like what that actually feels like.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that I'm experiencing that constantly now, no. I mean, there's just no way. It's been way too long, and that's a good thing because if I was in that spot forever, right, I'd never grow,
Right.
right. So, but I do get what you're saying. There is a point like where people are like, I just can't, and you have to let people just can't let them be where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
literally that's all I'm
yeah.
saying is like if they don't want to grow, then you should never try to force them
Oh no.
to grow
Oh god,
because
no.
that's not helping anybody.
They'll
So.
resent it, and you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll resent
Yep.
it, and you. They'll resent it, and you. It's we do
Right.
what we're ready for. Like that's
Yep.
literally what it comes down to. We do what we're
Mm-hmm.
ready for.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You once again you hit the nail on the head.
I get the feeling I've made you smile quite a bit so far.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
This has been like one of the most free flowing interviews I had. Usually it's very rigid and it's like, oh, I got a set of questions I have to ask you, and we sort of go through the bullet points of an interview without having an actual
Mm-hmm.
interview, if that makes any sense.
No, totally. I used to do that all the time.
Hmm.
I don't do it anymore.
Right. Right.
Did it make
I
you a little? I should ask this. Did that make you a little nervous coming in here? It's like, what the hell am I getting into?
Yes, actually, yes. Like I was like, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, and then I thought, well, maybe that's what this, m- maybe that's what's going to make this interview so chill. It is like if I don't have any clue of what I'm getting into, and like I can't speak for your listeners, obviously. I presume that's what your listeners love about your chill kind of format.
Well, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. We just go right. Like
Right.
here's the thing, Rob. Can I
Hmm.
call you Rob? Is it Rob or Robert? What do you prefer?
It doesn't
Okay,
matter to me. So.
I'm gonna call you Rob. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So here's the thing. I don't know you personally. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know your books personally. We'll talk a little bit about your books before we wrap up. But I think your story is interesting, and there's only one of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the universe is like hallelujah, amen. I'm sure that is what the case with me. But the thing about it is you have your own story and you have your own thoughts and feeling. Like, that's much more interesting to me than a standard question. I mean, don't get me wrong, we can talk writing process if that's what you want to talk about. But I got the sense with you, like you were like, I'm open to anything,
Mm-hmm.
even
Yep.
and we have talked about everything.
Totally.
And the thing I'm going to remember most about this conversation is mint and hot sauce. That I never
Yes. Right. Yeah.
right. That's what I'm going to remember.
Me too. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And you'll be like, I never thought I'd talk about that on an interview. And then you know what though, you're going to be disappointed with your next interview. You're just going to be disappointed. You're like, oh man, why can't we talk about the good stuff, man?
like like mint and hot sauce.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I well, like I guess that's also one of the reasons why I left corporate media too. It was very, very rigid, and I just could not handle the rigidness of it anymore. Um, Plus, I just didn't like. I This is going to be a hot take, but
Sure, do
but
your hot takes, whatever.
but I didn't like that I had to be objective. Um, in journalism classes and everything, they drill it into our heads that you ought to become objective. Well, my whole view is giving a voice to the voiceless, and if you're objective, then you have to give the microphone to the oppressor. And what story is it when you're just letting the oppressor oppress some more? So I wanted to be less objective and more subjective, and so yeah.
So I want to ask this as a fun little thing. Are you a CM Punk fan?
I honestly have no idea what they are.
Okay, that's cool. Because the voice to the voiceless thing was something he said a long, long time ago. So, and he's based out of Chicago. So I'm like, there was just like a little bit of that chance. But going on to a bigger topic here, real quick. Journalists can't be objective. It's impossible.
Right.
You have your own voice. Now, here's the thing. I don't think objectivity should be the goal of journalism. It should be understanding. Because it's okay, what we disagreed with earlier. Two very valid points of view.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Two very valid points of view. And
right.
to say and to say that, one's invalid and one's not valid is dishonest. Right? Right? The concerns are real. And a real story would be to just a good story tells both sides of that. Now, you might have your own conclusion which way is better, and that's totally fine. But the trick, but objectivity is impossible. Like it's like I can go out there and say Donald Trump is a monster. Not sure I get too many arguments against that, really, right? But at the same time, if I was covering Donald Trump and I had to be honest about it, okay, he wasn't all bad. He might have been mostly bad, but he's not all bad either, right? So it's one of those things where you just got that's where no story is one dimensional. No story is, every story has nuances to it, right? And every story has a that doesn't mean that there isn't definitely a right and a wrong or an up or a down, sure. But human beings are not. I'm not the mustache twirling villain. I can't twirl the stash and plot world domination, right? I just can't. I can't do it, right? At the same time, I could be completely pigheaded and wrong about a million different things,
right?
And I'd be less than honest if I said it any other way, and vice versa, right? I somehow don't see you as a mustache twirling villain. Right, I could be wrong. You might be secretly plotting world domination behind my back.
I am. You just
okay. See, there you go. See,
yeah,
right. But the point is, right? There are amazing parts to you as a person, and then there are some parts of you that probably are less than great, but they're part of what makes you you. Right. A good journalist would tell that story. Now, you might still be a great guy with some flaws, or a good person or someone trying to do good, doing a bad thing. There's a lot of ways to tell that story. But the thing is, what journalism is ultimately about is it's stories about people, and people are always interesting. So, but there are people you've interviewed that you thought were complete dicks. right? There are
Hundreds of them. Like, yeah, yeah,
yeah, right,
hundreds of them. Yeah,
right. And
right.
then there are people who you probably interviewed that got a really bad story that you thought were great people because
Exactly. Right.
it's not one way. It's a whole bunch of different ways. And as I said, good journalists learn to understand. But
Hmm.
you throw at some point like you cannot be objective. You're going to be subjective, and the only thing you got to promise yourself, kind of, when you're doing that, is that sometimes you're going to be wrong too, and you got to accept that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Yes, when I say subjective, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be right all the time. My goal is just to try to do the right thing and learn from my mistakes.
And that's all any of us can do, right?
Hmm.
Right? That's all any of us can do. It's not. It's not. How do I put this? I if life was fair, like was truly a fair thing,
Hmm.
most of us would be dead because we've all done some major screw ups in our lives.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It,
Life is blessedly unfair, right? And
if
that's
life was genuinely fair, then karma would kill us all. So,
almost all of us. Not all of us, but almost all of us would not be like there'd be a lot less of us on the planet than there are
right.
today,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
We're all we hey, listen. I can do this like an AA style. I'm Josh. I'm a fuck up, and I'm okay with it.
Right.
I think I figured out the other thing you really like about me. I could be wrong. This is going to be completely a little bit of ego stroking, so forgive me for this. You just like that. I'm just throwing everything out there, and you're
Hmm.
like,
Yep.
there's no pretensions.
It's very refreshing.
Hmm. Yeah, don't have to hide anything, right?
Right.
It's too much work. I'm lazy. See, that's what it comes
Right.
to.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
I'm lazy. I have
So
no idea.
I should
Mhm.
ask this before we continue. We talk like some. We should probably talk about your books at
Oh,
some point.
yeah.
At some point.
We,
But I did want to ask a couple
we
things.
should probably talk about what I came here for.
Well, at some point. At some point.
Yeah.
I had a couple more questions, and then we'll just a couple like because you are a very unique individual, and again, I'm not because of your current like because of your what you've been through in your life.
Hmm.
I've always kind of like this is the thing. And by the way, if this is too personal a question, just let me know. I'll back off.
Hmm.
This isn't meant to be like I'm just very curious.
Hmm.
Um, you're blind.
Hmm.
Have you always been blind? And my question is like when you look out into the world, because and I'm being if I'm coming across super ignorant, I'm just apologizing up front. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, how is it like all darkness you're seeing, or is it like do you see shapes? Do you how do you
Oh, sure,
see?
sure. Yeah,
If
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right way to ask that question, but
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
something I'm legitimately curious about.
Right. So up until a few years ago, I was legally blind, which here in America means that you have a visual acuity of 2200 or less. So what that means is that what 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 you could see at or no, excuse me, I got it mixed up. So what that means is that what you can see up to 20 feet, I can see lesser. So things had to be closer to me. So I was nearsighted until a few years ago on my birthday when I woke up and I hopped in the shower, and for some reason the lights shut off. Like they just
Stop.
shut off, and I'm like, oh, are we having a power outage or something? And then so I got out and I looked towards the window and I'm like, wait a minute, like there's no sunlight, there's no clouds, it's just total blackness. I no blurry shapes, no nothing. So what was happening was that I was having a acute narrow angle glaucoma, and I had no idea. So my vision would cut in and out and in and out for the whole day while I was at the ER, and finally it damaged my optic nerve enough to where now I do have vision. It's not like the vision that I had before. I'm, for all intents and purposes, totally blind. But I can see shapes and shadows and light and everything. So my so I can see objects at the same distance as they were previously. I just can't see the object, if that
Yeah. Okay.
makes any sense.
It does.
It's like because your optic nerve that transmits a lot of things to your brain, and like if that's damaged, then
See.
your brain can't process what you're looking at. So there's a doctor that is currently listening to this podcast going, oh my God, you described it horribly.
That's okay.
But
No, but yeah, this
right.
is
Yeah. So it's kind of, so now my vision is kind of like you're constantly walking through a very smoky, burning building where colors don't look normal, shapes don't look normal anymore, but you can still see it. It's kind of like when Daredevil lost his eyesight, and he would see things in sort of like a blue mist or haze, except I don't have superpowers, so
not yet. You are planning to take over the world, so I mean, I'm
right.
not going to throw anything out the door right now.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Right.
Right. So.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I gave you the power of mint to help take over the world at some point. So
Yes. Cool
yes,
beans.
totally. The mustache is being twirled as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. It totally
Yes, it is.
No. I hope you forgive my curiosity on this, because it just was one of those things. Like when Karina told me about you, it's like, okay, like I'm just gonna come and like talk to you and listen to you and tell dirty jokes and be myself, right? And
right.
right,
But like, but it's amazing that we got through nearly an hour and hadn't even touched upon the subject.
I know, isn't that great?
Right? Yeah.
I have ruined you. I have ruined you for other interviews. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna let you know this up front. I have ruined you, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm just that damn good. But that's just neither here nor there. So, okay. So we'll talk some books for a little bit, and then we'll wrap up. But before we, I guess I always ask this question because we all have our books we loved as a kid.
Mhm.
So, what was the book that made you go, "I want to do this"?
My book, actually, can I tell you my author because it
Yeah,
coincides
sure. No, totally.
with the book.
This is
Like,
your go
right?
for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so the author that really got me hooked on writing was he's actually a fictional author. He was a handle created by Daniel Handler. So the author's name is Lemony Snicket,
Okay.
and
Yeah, he's a good choice.
yeah, yes, his brand of humor, even as a kid, I loved it, and I'm like, oh my god, I love him,
Mm-hmm.
or it, or her, or something. He doesn't actually have a gender, so
Well, then you can call him Mr. Snicket, Doctor Snicket, Miss Snicket,
okay.
or
Mhm.
whatever you like, whatever you feel it is. There is no
Right.
if it's gender. Like honestly, there's
Hmm.
no gender pronouns these days. I mean, there's just you might
Right.
or
Right. Yep.
go with they
I guess
them,
I
right?
should have said they.
Yeah. Just go
Their
with they them, right?
name is Lemony Snicket. So they it just he or excuse me they're a children's author, and they mostly write for children. However, there was just a weird quality to the children's books where even as a kid, even I knew that this author is weird and I like it. So, yeah. And now reading the books and things as an adult, I'm like, yep, I was right on the money. This person is unlike any other author I've ever heard of, and that is the kind of weirdness I'm here for. Just harmless, weird, you know,
So so my
sprinkled
heart.
in with educational facts here and there. I his books that I read as a kid were a series of unfortunate events, and they had surprisingly they didn't have what you would normally classify as education. They had wisdom sprinkled out through this very bizarre satirical world. And from the moment that like I said, I read the whole series of unfortunate events series, and I thought is that makes me want to become an author. So
Okay.
yeah.
So okay. Sometimes, so I saw a quote today. If you tell the truth, make them laugh. That way, they don't kill you. There's some
Hmm.
truth. There's some truth to that. Right? There's some truth to that, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you can get away with a lot with humor, and so comic book wise, my
Hmm.
big motivator is Dr. Seuss.
Hmm.
I
Ah, yes.
Seuss is
Yes.
very silly himself,
He was
right?
another author that I loved as a kid. So
Yeah, no, he's fun, right?
mhm. Yeah.
And then there's And then there was like for me, I'm a Ray Bradbury guy. I'm an Edgar Rice Burroughs guy. I'm
Mm.
an Isaac Asimov guy. I'm
Oh yeah.
right. So I'm a sci-fi. I'm still, and my comic book choices are Green Lantern. I am like the nerd of nerds, but I love stuff that is like I love this big, imaginative, over the top stuff that makes you think. Which
Exactly. Yep.
which now that I think of it is probably not that different than the guy hosting the show. But that's not
Right. Right.
right.
But I didn't read normal books as a kid. I read books that were way out of my reading level
Yeah,
and comfort zone and everything. So I like when I was, I think about 11 or 12, I read a book called Running with Scissors, and that
yes.
book was definitely not for children.
No,
So
it's not. No, it's not.
I, but I was so hooked on it, and my teachers, they were really concerned. They were like, we,
Why would they be concerned?
they, they, they were like, we have to get you reading younger literature, and I'm like,
Why?
why?
Yeah, why?
Yeah, yeah,
I,
well,
I, I would rather a student. So when I was in high school, right, I was
yeah.
reading. So for reading stuff, we were doing Macbeth.
Oh wait, I do have to educate your listeners on why my teacher was
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
so horrified. So there's a lot of can I cuss in this interview?
Yeah, dude, I've been swearing all episode. Go knock yourself out, man.
Cool. Okay. So there's a lot of frankly bizarre shit that happens throughout the book. There's
Yes,
like
there is.
there's
I won't deny.
there's a doctor and his family, and they do like electroshock therapy on animals. They do like they pray to shit in toilets in the morning. they 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 um they fake their families' deaths and things so they don't have to go to public school. There's gay um pedophilia in the book if you count that the love interest was 35 and the author was like 15 or 16 at the time. So that book is definitely not for children. And when my teachers saw me reading that, they were like, "Oh my God, we need to have an intervention right now." So,
So, so I so in high school I learned what a Star of David was because I
Mhm,
read Robert Heinlein. Like if you read Heinlein after Stranger in a Strange Land,
mhm.
seriously, I got more sex education in his books than I ever got in school, right? Because oh my god, like his early stuff is like very like textbook, like and overall honestly better stuff. His
Right.
earlier stuff,
Yeah.
but his revolt hippie stuff, that's what I call everything after Stranger. I
Right.
was like, I had no idea half this shit was possible, and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like
Yeah.
16 at the time. It's like, I like, who do I talk to about this, right? Because it's like,
Right.
right? Holy shit! But this is what I like. Like, I think we all like you read you start really reading and you just go up the ladder because eventually what happens is what they're supposed to be on your level isn't really on your level anymore. You're way above it, so
Yeah,
you look
exactly.
for other
Yep.
things to challenge you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then so, and then what
And,
happens
and
is we all stumble into our weird things. With you it was I guess Running with Scissors. For me it was Time Enough for Love. That was the book that really made me go, what the hell did I just read? Right.
yeah,
So,
right. Yes. Yes. Well, well, like I read things like Flowers in the Attic at 9 years old, and
So
things.
you were like,
So
you were like, I'm going all in, baby. I'm reading everything I can get my hands on.
right, yes,
Yeah, it's so
and
okay. Yeah.
so I'm, which is strange now because I don't read a lot of adult literature that makes any sense. I tend to find that children's literature is more weird and more to my extremely weird tastes now. Not saying that like adult literature is boring and stale. Definitely not. I just have very bizarre tastes.
I think sometimes adult fiction has a tendency to be put too much into. They sometimes don't get in the way of their own story. Is what I
Mm,
find with a lot of
yes,
adult stuff,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
young adult doesn't do that, right? Young adult just like
right,
what's the meat and potato. Like sometimes you just want. I don't really give a flying fuck about this, and this. It's actually it's cool. It's there. It's neat world
right.
building.
Yep,
But honestly, it has very little to do with the story. It's not that interesting. It doesn't fit. It's not. It's like you're trying to add layers to something that could be very streamlined and simple,
exactly. Right.
and sometimes simplicity is all you want. Um, good.
And,
Okay, so
and
I'll
never,
give you my example.
yep.
Veronica Roth. She wrote a book
Hmm.
called Chosen Ones. I like it. It's
Hmm.
good,
Right.
but I like her Insurgent series way
Mm,
better
yes.
because it cuts
Yes.
right to the point. Now, Chosen
Exactly.
Ones does some cool things I like in it. I think they're cool tricks,
Hmm.
but I read the story and it was like, she could have simplified some of this shit. Like here,
Right.
here, here. And again, sometimes you can be messier in adult books, which is I think the advantage to an adult book.
Right.
But if you're gonna
Right.
be messy, do it in a way that again, what's your story? And I
Exactly.
right,
Right.
what's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
story? Right,
Yeah.
because
Because I see so many authors taking advantage of the freedom to be messy without a reason to be
yep.
messy.
And sometimes again, sometimes you're going for that awkward, uncomfortable thing. But like again, I'm going to use Chosen
Which is
Ones.
fine.
Oh no, it's totally fine.
Right.
I'm going to use Chosen Ones as an example. She introduced this one character really early on that was really interesting and fun and cool. But when it came time for the actual story to kind of really begin, like beyond the messed up relationships of all these people who had saved the world a decade ago,
Hmm.
right, where they're at today, which is cool. That's a cool starting point. But only not all of them went into the other world and did all the important main story stuff,
Hmm.
right? And so this one character that you went out of your way to introduce didn't do anything in this story.
Hmm.
So why was she there? And I'm not saying that to be like a big knock, a big evil, like whatever.
Right.
But I was like, but looking at it backwards, it was like cool character. Could have done a lot more with this character for sure.
Hmm.
So why didn't you? Because you
Right.
could have, and it would
Yeah.
have been a lot better if you did.
Exactly. I so like I that's that's you're just chock full of nails and hammers today, aren't you?
The other theme of today.
I like I that's I think that's why I simply cannot write for adults. Like I just like I know that there's a lot of freedom. I just simply can't uh like like I can't connect with quite a bit of adults. you know, through through writing anyway, which is ironic because the main criticism that I receive is that, well, your teenagers don't really act like teenagers, and it's like, well, I wasn't a normal teenager, so.
Which you right, which no, but it's more than that. It's so here's the thing. I like this is you know what I grew up reading. I really loved
Hmm.
Roger Zelazny and Michael Moore, and I appreciate them more as I get older.
Right.
Roger
Yep.
Zelazny and Michael Moorcock.
Hmm.
They're not complicated stories. They're fun,
Right.
incredibly depth. Like Zelazny especially, incredibly in depth. I
Hmm.
love Michael Moorcock's imagination. Don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
if you're talking like emotional resonance in a very short period of time,
Hmm.
Zelazny's the fucking man. I mean,
Yes.
he's just the man.
Oh my God.
And so my favorite stuff. So I just found it at a Value Village like not too long ago. I found Michael Moorcock's Hawk Moon. It's
Hmm.
like oh my gosh, I love that. I love that story. But the other one I really love from Zelazny is his Amber series. Like he made Corin really interesting. So that's the kind of adult stuff I like to write.
Hmm.
That because honestly, that's all I want in a story,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
I can add some fun layers to it because I play with other mediums and I just can't help myself. But
Hmm.
I don't need a super complex story. I just want to create an experience you won't forget. Like right now I'm writing Alice in Wonderland playing Croquet in the Underworld. And she's playing Jason of
No,
the Argonauts.
seriously, I would read that in a heartbeat.
Oh no, you will. I'll tell you what. Like when I'm almost
Mhm.
done the actual quote unquote beta, I'll send you the beta because it's epic poetry. It's like it's a wild ass ride. Right now, she's fighting a dragon that's got like many. The shadow has
Mhm.
many different heads, and the
Mhm.
dragon himself has got one head, but all his shadows. It's like, almost like when a head pops up, another personality comes up. It's kind of like one of those like really weird things. And I'm having a blast with it, right? But it's a simple story. Alice plays
Right.
Jason in the underworld, and how can
Right.
I make this as fun as possible?
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying
Right.
anything else.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I guess that's you I you and me, I swear, I think we're like um kinship or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But that's uh, but that's exactly what I look for in a story. Like I'm not looking for something complicated. I'm looking for something easy, yet at the same time, I'm looking for something that is not formulaic.
You want something that just seems fun, right?
Yes. Mhm.
That's what you want. That's what you totally want. You're not really worried about anything else. Like, is this fun?
Right. Yes. Yes. And to my 11-year-old self, running with scissors was really fun for some reason. So.
Okay, okay, well, this may be also what we have in common. We're both a little messed up. We were reading way above our levels when we were younger.
Yep.
So, let's see here. We probably should talk about your books at this point,
Yeah.
probably at some point.
Yep.
So how many books you got out now?
I right now I have two books out. So I have a memoir that is under a Creative Commons license, and then I have an anthology that I crafted by blind and visually impaired authors.
Cool. So what do you want to talk about first? Your anthology or your memoir?
Sure. So I would like to start with my memoir
Sure.
first because it's easier. So when I was younger, in my early 20s, I took a challenge. This was before I was socially aware of of racism and things like that. So one of my friends, um, he's like, "Hey, why don't you try using the internet, or excuse me, why don't you go for 1 month without using any internet at all? You have to go through your whole day. You have to do your job. You have to do your banking. You have to do everything without using the internet." And to those who are blind and visually impaired, technology is that's our lifeline to the world. So when you take away the internet, then you throw a wrench into our whole routine. But I took up the challenge anyway. Um, except when I first wrote the book, I did not mention how the internet is useful to those who are low income and living in the quote unquote ghetto, or
Mhm.
or those kind of urban cities and everything. So I kind of centered the book through my own white disabled experience in the form of diary entries, which get philosophical as the month goes on, because I didn't have any internet, so I didn't have anything to distract me. So I would just write in my journal about philosophical shit. So um, but throughout that whole month and everything, I never mentioned how the internet is so crucial to disabled people of color. So recently, my publisher was bought, and the new publisher was like, "Well, we don't really want your memoir anymore, so you can have your rights back and everything." I'm like, "Okay." So I chose to release it under a Creative Commons license, because I, I did not think that it was um, cool for me to have to force people to pay for culturally tone deaf opinions, especially now that I am hyper aware of things like uh, capitalism and ableism and racism and things like that. So,
I have to read this a little bit myself to really get an opinion on that, but I'm of two minds about that.
mhm.
Um, One, it's still a really interesting story because you're one of the very few people that could tell your story. So I almost feel, yeah, I do kind of feel this way. I feel like, yeah, it might be culturally deaf, tone deaf, but you have a unique right to be that, because to be perfectly honest, very few people understand what it would be like to be you. And
Hmm.
I think that's a very interesting, like I said, I asked you earlier about what it's like to be blind because I have no context for it, right? I have none. I don't.
Right.
I don't. Right?
Right.
A lot of people don't, and I mean, I it doesn't mean your work was perfect. I'm not saying
Right.
that. But
Right.
what I'm saying is like it's like this. Like I have a novel down. I know I could go back and rewrite it, make it better, more relevant, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what I could write at that time. You know what I
Right.
mean? That was what I could write at that time. That's where I was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Your memoir was where you were at that time,
Right.
right? So, flip side, if you want the flip side to the argument,
Mm-hmm.
Will Wheaton writes really cool books under Creative Commons license.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be following his model, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, Will Wheaton's blogs have made him millions of dollars, right?
Wait. Are you sure it's Will Wheaton? I'm
Yeah,
actually
no, no.
thinking of.
Will Wheaton back in like I don't know about now. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about now, but
Right.
back in like the early mid 2000s, all his books were published under a Creative Commons license, not a copyright license, right? So it,
Are you sure you're not thinking of Cory Doctorow?
no. Cory Doctorow is someone that did some other things that are also really cool. I
Okay.
know
Okay.
no. Cory Doctorow
Good.
is also cool.
Mm-hmm.
Another day, if we I'm assuming you're going to want to come back and tell me about all the hot sauce experiments you did with the mint at some point down the road. But right when you do, we'll talk about Cory Doctorow because he's one of my favorite authors too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right, but Will Wheaton did the same thing too.
He
Right, and he
did.
did it with
Oh.
blogs. So there's to me, I hope you take this as a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you're kind of following in that footstep. I actually feel I just basically want you to just from my very humble perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you have a story you're uniquely qualified to tell. I'm not sure culture you're in a unique spot because again, I really don't know anyone else who could do the story but you. And I'm
Right.
not knocking anyone's going through cultural, racial, other struggles,
Right.
right? But I would almost dare to venture that your case is actually far more unique, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I could be wrong, and if anyone wants to correct me on that, they could. But I really like seriously
Like
a blind or a someone
gay
that is
blind.
very heavily technically reliant on stuff to survive
Mm-hmm.
going through that challenge and kind of learning whatever they learn about themselves throughout that challenge. That's a really fascinating story, man. Like
Yes,
honestly.
I learned a hell of a lot about myself through that challenge, and not just myself, but a lot about my friends and how they interact with the world and everything. How I like it's totally available as a Creative Commons work. You can translate it.
Absolutely.
You can adapt it. However, though, looking into Creative Commons more, I think I'm going to talk to my literary agent some more, and we're going to try to make future contracts have ebooks that are under Creative Commons license and have the print versions of the books,
Oh, totally.
things that
Totally.
you could pay for. So that's I now I to my knowledge, I don't know any other fiction author that's done this except for uh, Cory Doctorow, and now Will Waiting. So this is going to be an uphill
It, 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 it's
battle.
it's a small group for sure. I'm not going to say it
Right,
isn't, but again,
right.
I remember I used to work for a bookstore a long time ago, and
Mm-hmm,
he would get these eclectic books.
mm-hmm,
So that included Will Wheaton's blogs, right? So
mm.
I would read them. They were all under the Creative Commons license. Again, this is the
Wow.
early mid 2000s. I don't know if this is true anymore,
Right.
but yeah, that time that was big.
Hmm.
So that's
Wow.
cool, man. I put a link up for people to actually find it on Twitch already, so people want to see it.
Cool beans.
Um, so you got, and you're also doing an anthology as well.
Yes, yes. Now this one is not under a Creative Commons license, because the publisher, they're a really small publisher, and to be honest, it just never it when I created the anthology, it never occurred to me to make the ebook a Creative Commons. So yeah. Um, but um, but it's an anthology comprised of stories by blind and visually impaired authors, and these stories are a mixture of tones and genres. Um, I'm going to tell you two of my favorite stories in the anthology so far. They're character driven stories. One is a fantasy story called Noah and the Dragon, and the other one is a science fiction story called Inspiration Porn Star. And when you read that one, your mind is going to be
Blown.
twisting. So, yeah, yeah. So
So,
yeah,
so did that guy know you very well? Did they know about your running with scissors, like little 'cause I'm asking because I mean I heard that's like okay, this is something he would write, not just would read, but would write.
like actually the author that wrote the story, no, like she didn't know anything about my running with scissors obsession when she wrote it. Uh, but but the anthology comprised of quite a bit of authors. Some are new, some are established authors, and they just have a wide range of stories to tell. And I thought, well, publishing claims that these stories are not really marketable, that we have to ease it in to the general public and things like that. And I said, I don't think we have to wait for that long. So let's just release this and and let readers glimpse through multiple narratives and multiple story lines what it's really like to be visually impaired.
So, okay, so this one, I'm sure you wrote a story for it, but your primary job is to go through all the stories you get and go, okay, which ones are cool?
Yep.
Like
Yes.
like porn star in. I was like in, like it's like right, it jumped right in. It's like fantasy. I like fantasy, and you're like, ooh, and you come up with some other ones that you really enjoyed along the way.
Trust
Um,
me, if you really know me, you'll look at the stories and go, I know exactly why
it,
he chose them. So yeah.
see, here's the thing. I have a feeling just based on the conversation we have, I could figure that out
Mhm.
probably relatively
Yeah.
quickly.
Right.
I
Yep.
call me a little, maybe call me. I've done this interview thing a few times. Like I think I know why you picked that one and that one and that one. It's like totally, like, I think I figured that out. But what I am going to say is, being an editor is an interesting spot because you get to read other people's stories and you understand some things because you can't choose everything. And there's some
Right.
good things you're going to have to make the decisions. Like I can't, and as much as I want to, I can't.
Right.
But at the same time, you can learn from everybody you're reading, right? Or you're
Ye-
reading. So
You can learn from the stories that you've rejected.
mhm,
So yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Like I am so happy that I got to meet so many incredible authors and writers that really should have more recognition. Truly, truly, truly. That's it, being an editor is a very unique position that I wish more writers would try to have, you know?
hmm hmm no,
Because I think, uh, 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 um, my bad. You were
no,
going to
no,
say
no, no, finish your point. I listen. I'm the pretty one. You're the
something.
smart one.
Right.
Let's go with this.
Right, right. Because um, because there's so many, I, even though I was tasked with looking at all these stories and everything, it really made me look at my own writing and made me look and see, oh well, this is where this au- author really shines. They do dialogue really well, so let me learn from this author how to do better dialogue, for example. And then maybe their world building is not so great. So this other author is really great at world building and everything. But more importantly, I think that it's a really great way to network if you lift other people up alongside of you. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's why I do this podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You're, you're episode 635. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't enjoy talking and lifting people up, man. I
r-
really wouldn't.
right. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So,
So and plus, like if I'm actually being snarky a bit, it's given me a chance to see the amazing talent that publishing pushes away so they can focus on the status quo.
Ooh, so I'm not sure we have enough time left to delve into that statement fully.
Uh-huh.
This is what I will say. This is what I say to everybody. You got to understand the nature of the beast you're getting into, and big topic like what we started with at earlier on. It ironically I feel ties in. I
Hmm.
just think here's the thing. Okay, you and I are having a conversation right now. You're in Chicago. I'm in Windsor. Right. We're having a great little chat. We tackled all kinds of wonderful things in the last hour. Right.
Hmm.
So I don't need a radio station. I don't need a network. I just need a platform to put my stuff, which I have with Twitch, right?
Right.
So here's the thing. The need for those bigger things is being put in question. So what's happening is all these big things, these vaunted things that were important 20, 30 years ago are shrinking, right? So
Mm-hmm.
on the one hand, what's happening with publishing is like, oh shit, we're leaking water here. All right. What can we save so that we don't go down with the rest of this Titanic?
Ah, right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
business. And by the way, I'm not knocking anyone that's in traditional publishing. They've earned it. Some great
Oh
people that
no,
would that
I mean, I've read some really great books and things that have come from traditional
oh absolutely
publishing.
right
Yeah.
right right. But here's the thing, right? There's so much on the table for so many other things. Somewhere, someone is reading a potato YA fantasy series about Miss Potato going on a quest to find Mr. Potato. I don't
That's
know. I'm just making this shit up as I go
freaking
along, right?
amazing.
Right,
You're right.
right, right, right. So, and the thing about that is, right, and as silly as that sounds, there's a story for every kind of audience out there. And the fact of the matter is, writers today can get access to those things quicker than a publisher can,
Hmm.
which is creating now. On top of that, we do have the dragon known as Amazon, our hail
All
our
right.
overlord and master. But the dragon, we do have that dragon there,
Mm.
but we also got movement, motion. There are so many ways to reach people today that you look at an older model, like this is everything, not just business, but government, banking,
Hmm.
everything.
Right.
We can connect so much faster now than they can connect with us,
Hmm.
right?
Right. Hmm.
So I think and again, big picture, I
Hmm.
think that's secretly the real struggle of this decade,
Hmm.
right? That is the real one. Forget everything else. The real struggle is
Catching
every,
up with its own.
or the other option too, or again, we all can make choices.
Hmm.
What is a community? Me and you could be a community now because we have this magical technological connection that we can talk, right?
Hmm.
Across.
Yeah.
So what is community? What is a city? What is a country?
Hmm.
Right? What is a company?
Right.
Those lines that used to be so concrete are now no longer, they're not built in the same dimensions anymore.
Mm.
Other possibilities exist.
Hmm.
Publishing has publishing has been this in this boat for about 5 years, but the rest of the world's going through this too,
Hmm.
right? Why watch television when you have YouTube?
Right.
Why watch a sporting event like on a syndicated network when you can watch a
Right.
sporting event on a stream?
Yep.
Why why deal with cryptocurrency being what it is? Why deal with money as we've traditionally dealt with money? Right? People haven't fully caught on to this yet, but the reality of the situation is there's so many options of where we can go as people and as authors, as businessmen and women, and any other gender I am not mentioning,
Hmm.
and every other possibility you can possibly imagine, right? So I think that's the struggle of this decade. Who do we want to become? And how
Mm-hmm.
does we want to make that look like? And that's true on like the micro level as being an author, editor, publisher,
Mm-hmm.
businessman, mustache twirling villain you are, right? To like the big stuff. Does that is what I'm saying like making sense, or am I just on my own?
No. It totally makes sense, and like I think that's why I've really shifted from because way back in the day when I was a teenager, I used to think that other authors were competition, and now I view other authors as just community that I haven't gotten to mingle with
Mhm.
yet. So
Going full circle, and we'll wrap this up because I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Please come back. Do you want to come back for some more somewhere down the road?
hell yeah.
Okay, all right. We'll do that. We'll do that again.
All right.
But for this time, just we'll call this the big. We'll put the bow into the thought for now. And
Mm-hmm.
it's this: there's only one you, my friend. There's only one Robert Kingett, and his voice is unique. And in a world where you can reach billions of people,
Mm-hmm.
there are people out there that are going to find you and say, "You, my friend, are awesome." And that's the truth.
Wow. That's. I mean, it's so bizarre because I don't think of myself as awesome. I'm just who I am. So
Think yourself as the mustache twirling, hot sauce loving dude. I mean, whatever you want
right.
to think yourself, it's still like totally up to you.
Right.
But I say it like that because it's the truth. We live in an age today. Look, I got an award. I've been traditionally published.
Mhm.
I've been there. It's not what people think it is. Like that dream. And don't get me wrong. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. I'm not saying that in like a derogatory way.
Mhm.
But when you really sit there and look at it now, I'm much more excited about what I can do on my own. And maybe someday I will work again. I'm not about working with traditional publishing again somewhere down the road. I'm a
Mhm.
businessman,
Mhm.
but my whole approach to it is so much different than what it would have been 20 years ago, right? And it's
Mhm.
going in 10 years, it might even be more different again.
Right.
That's because my friend, to quote Bob Dylan, the times they are a changing, and to
Mm.
what we will find out going forward.
Mhm.
But until then, my friend, keep making the wonderful things you are. Don't worry about being the best voice you can be, and you got that already nailed down. And you're gonna kick all kinds of ass, man. You're just gonna do it.
I I hope so. I
Yeah,
hope I kick ass to make this world better. y-
I hope so too, man. That's all we
You
could.
know?
If I leave it a little bit better than when I walked in, I did something right. Right.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
it. That's it.
Exactly.
That's all we can hope for.
But I
My
have
good, my good sir. I feel we have an interview here. What do you think?
I definitely I yes, we definitely have an interview.
Like I said, I've ruined you for everybody else. I know it. I just like, what the hell did you talk about? Like everything. Holy crap. He blew my brain. I thought he was crazy when I started, and now at the end, I still think he's crazy, but it was fun.
Oh my goodness. I'm actually not sure how this platform works. So if I leave, what's going to
Well,
happen to
so
your recording?
before you disappear, this is what
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap up the show properly.
Okay.
Then we're gonna talk when it's over, so you can give me some stuff so I can promote for when this becomes an audio.
Mm-hmm.
But you talked about your books a little bit. Where can people find you to know more?
Okay, sure. So the best way to find me is through my website, which is blindjournalist.com. dot wordpress.com. I am on Twitter. Like I said, though, I'm trying to use it less. So keep an eye out on my blog and my website, and keep in touch through the old technology that is email. So yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Just hold on a second here. My thing decided to be evil. There it goes. It's back. I'm back. Let's try that again. Hold on a second here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna do this again. So I tried typing it in, and it's like, damn it, no. We're gonna do this again.
Mm-hmm. Did you find it?
Oh, dude. I got it. No, I had to relog into Restream. When I went to activate, see that's what I was wanting to put in. Like, and when I went to do that, it's like you have to relog, and it's like, oh, really? No! Oh no! Beta.
Oh no! Oh my god!
Oh no! Beta. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert Kingett. We talked about everything. He will never look at hot sauce the same way again. I absolutely promise. I made him laugh. We had a good time. Tomorrow I'm off. Friday, Mandy Barnett joins the show. It's going to be a fun way to close out the week. I do have some guests lined up for next week. I think the week after we're going to kind of see it because I'm going to be kind of in transition. We'll more on that in like the date in the next couple of days and weeks. But to everybody watching, listening, thank you very, very much for watching. Hit the subscribe button on my Twitch, twitch.tv/JustJoshingPodcast. Year of the What is the sponsor this month. Check out Jennifer Lieberman's audiobook, Year of the What. There is going to be in the episode description a link to her newsletter, which I should probably be a little bit more prepared about. I'll just put it in a little later. Hit subscribe to her newsletter, enter a point a copy of her book. Jen's awesome. I'd love having her on the show, and hopefully get to have her again before the month's up. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pantellaresco. Hit the like, subscribe, enable notifications, all that other good stuff. Alice Zero is nominated for the Elgin Award. You can get that on Amazon. Alice 1 comes out November 1st. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. Keep making beautiful things, ladies and gentlemen. That's what makes life worth living. I'll see you guys tomorrow.